Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wellness on Purpose podcast, where our intention is to provide you with impactful, educational, and realistic information to help you progress on your journey to live wellness on purpose now and for future generations. This podcast shares insights to current health trends with industry and brand leaders in the health and wellness world. This podcast is brought to you by Joanne's Place Health Foods from Peterborough and Lindsay, Ontario. My name is Marissa Lachlan. I'm a holistic nutritionist and functional lab practitioner. I've been working alongside Joanne's Place for the last 8 years, and I'm so excited to continue to be your host for this podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. All right, 2023. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the year for women's health. We're already seeing it. We're already seeing the health and wellness industry shift from being primarily male-driven to be primarily female-driven. And I think that this shift is a good thing because there's been a lot of gaps in the health and wellness industry that haven't been very supportive for the needs of women. So we're seeing more women-specific formulations. We're seeing more women-specific recommendations, and we're also seeing more female-founded companies arise from this shift, which is incredibly amazing. And I know I'm not alone when I say that this is going to be a positive shift because today's guest also agrees. Aeryon Ashlie is the founder of Aeryon Wellness supplements. She's a holistic nutritionist, weight loss expert, keynote speaker, and #1 best-selling author and former on-air radio personality. So what is Aeryon Wellness? Aeryon Wellness is a female-focused brand with the mission to empower women with holistic health. Her support supplements are a result of 20 plus years of personal experience with hormonal imbalances, weight management, stress, and sleep issues. Now, in December of 2021, she was featured on CBC's Dragon Den for the innovation use of QR codes that are found on all of her product labels, which provide education, nutrition, and strategies to assist women on their journey to sustainable health and wellness. Now, for today's episode, I want to talk about something that most women experience along their health and wellness journey, and usually more than once. It's annoying. It's inconvenient. It can have an odor. It can have an itch and can be quite discomfort. And unfortunately, in modern medicine, they think there's only one option to treat it, and we're here to debunk that. I'm talking about yeast infections and BV infections. Did you know that there's actually natural products available to help treat and prevent these conditions in women? Yep. And Aeryon Ashlie from Aeryon Wellness has created these, and we're going to talk all about them today. So without further ado, join me and welcome Aeryon onto the podcast today. Hello, Aeryon. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about vaginal health, but before we jump into that, I would love to just learn a little bit more about yourself and your female-founded company, which is a wellness brand called Aeryon Wellness. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Joanne's Place for supporting a woman-owned business and carrying some of our products. I really appreciate that. So I have been in the industry for like 20 years. And about 10 years ago, I had a personal health crisis. And I think a lot of women can resonate with this. I was overtired, overworked, overstressed. I actually started early perimenopause. And ironically enough, I was a holistic nutritionist and I had been in the supplement industry for 15 years. So I knew what I should be doing, but I wasn't really putting all the pieces together. And I kind of had my aha moment where I began to stop looking at just one component of health, which for myself was always diet. It was always what I was eating and what my pant size was. And I started really looking at the whole picture in the sense of, the thoughts I was thinking, how that really played a role in my overall health and wellness, the food I was eating, movement, nutrition, and then supplementation. And it was also around that time that I began to look at what was really on the market, being the fact that I was in the supplement industry and that there wasn't many at that time. Actually, I think there was none because the leading one at the time had sold, but there was no female-founded, female-owned, female-focused companies on the market. And I realized there's an opportunity to step in and change the game based on what I had gone through and also to my knowledge in the industry. So that's really where Aeryon Wellness started. We started this is our 4th year in business this year. We started out with 2 products. And we're now up to, I believe we have almost 13 products on the market now. And really looking at not only creating products for women, but what women need. That's another really big focus of mine as well. Being in this industry every day, I would sell products that were made by men, marketed to women, and in a male dominated retail sector for the most part. And now that's shifting as well, which is really wonderful. And even this last big trade show we have, there's been such a shift in the focus on women founders and women really elevating other women in our industry. So it's super, super exciting. But that's just kind of a little story about how it kind of all came to be. And part of the big thing with the brand, when I took those pillars or those things that I had used to find my own healing, was we now impart that into the brand. So every single product has a QR code, and that QR code leads to our kind of 5 pillars. So we have meal plans, we have education, we have affirmations, we have workouts. So looking at all those components I used for my own journey and giving those to women to support them on theirs. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I love that you touched on, like, it's so real. Like, I'm a nutritionist as well. So like, all the things that you need to do, but can become easily overwhelmed with listening to the directive of which way to go. And you just need somebody that can really just understand and then tell you what to do and see the results. So I love that. And you're in BC, correct?
In Vancouver, rainy Vancouver. I think we have like 2 weeks of rain happening here right now, but yeah, definitely we're living up to our name today.
Yes, for sure. Awesome. So let's jump into it and talk a little bit more about how your products.
Vaginas.
Yes. It's one of the most, I know, it's so important to talk about it. There was such a long time in the industry where it was like, don't say that, or like, we don't talk about it enough, but this is one of the leading health concerns that women struggle with, and we're given all the wrong tools to support it. So let's talk about vaginal candida. Let's start there. A yeast infection. What is it? How would someone know if they had it?
Well, so a yeast infection is a fungal infection, and the big difference, because there's bacterial vaginosis, so there is the 2, right? So a yeast infection, the first indication is it's itchy, it's uncomfortable, right? You're uncomfortable. Basically, that would be your real, that's your real, hey, something's going on. And we all tend to know, I think, hey, something's going on. So that's really a yeast infection. And when you look at the, what it basically means is your vaginal areas become more alkaline. So a lot of people, and it's interesting, I was talking to a lady the other day, she's like, yeah, but don't we want to be alkaline? I'm like, we do, but we don't want to be alkaline in our vaginal area. Our vaginas are really self-cleaning organisms to a certain degree. And so we really need to make sure it stays acidic. That's one of the reasons how it's able to be that way. And so we want our vaginal area to be like a 3.5, like somewhere in that range, up to a 4. When it starts becoming more alkaline, like 4, 4.5, somewhere around in that range, that's when you can develop a yeast infection. And so that's when it becomes itchy and uncomfortable. When it starts going 5, so even higher, that's when you become more bacterial vaginosis. And the difference between the 2, simple way of discovering it, is there is a smell. There is a smell with bacterial vaginosis where you're like, something's off. And that's when you become more alkaline. Yeast infections is more itchy and uncomfortable. And what's interesting, when we did this product, and it comes from my own personal experience, because I was on antibiotics over and over and over again. And I finally went into my doctor, and I was in the industry. I knew what, antibiotics were doing to me. And I'm like, okay, enough is enough. Give me an appointment with a gynecologist. This is insane. And I went in, and she was like, boric acid. And I was like, what? She's like, boric acid. And I went and used it. And I'm not joking, 2-3 days later, gone. And I just kept it. And then about 2 years ago, I was driving here in Vancouver, and I went, is anybody selling boric acid? And that's really how Up and Away came to be, because it was something I keep it and I use it on a regular basis when need be. But 3 out of 4 women will experience a yeast infection in their lifetime. So as you just said, it is beyond common. And I think we tend to feel embarrassed, or especially if it's bacterial vaginosis and there's a smell, a lot of women think it's them. They think something's wrong with them. They think they have an issue. They think they have an STD. We're very out of touch or on edge. A lot of them we're so uneducated because we don't talk enough about it, about our vaginas. And we need to be like fully like, hey, because if this was a guy's issue, I'm telling you, it would be like, we actually kind of I joked about this, and even just, when you think of the name bacterial vaginosis, I always kind of joked, and I was like, I bet you a guy came up with that name.
Yeah.
I think, like, really, could we not have a better name than that? So, but it is something that you will find that if it does show up on a continuous basis, using something like boric acid, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, is something that you can use that will pretty well provide immediate results for the most part, right? So, so if you are experiencing vaginal pain during intercourse, if you have a rash, the other thing too is a really thick, odor-free vaginal discharge. That is also a good kind of that curdy. That's a visual we all don't want, but that would be really a yeast infection, right? So the smell is the biggest, I find, the indicator, and you can also use pH strips, which we sell as well.
Okay, so in terms of pH strips and testing the alkalinity, now would you only do that kind of like if you suspected something was coming, or do you actually recommend that women check their pH, every couple of weeks or every couple of days just to kind of see what their pH level is?
Well, it's something I think you can kind of do some people want to test all the time, right? There are certain people that just want to know where they're at. And I can totally respect that and understand that. But you can use it when you're off. So it really is flexibility in that.
Okay. So what would you say are the top 5 causes of yeast infections?
Well, antibiotic use, like myself, I kept using antibiotics over and over again, trying to fix something. And then, that wasn't working. Pregnancy as well. A lot of pregnant women, right? Because your hormonal levels are different at that point. You're a lot of the time producing more estrogen. Uncontrolled diabetes, right? Your sugar levels. Impaired immune system can also have that. And also if you're taking oral contraceptives sometimes, that can also increase estrogen levels and throw off that balance, because your estrogen is responsible for the lactic acid, which is the lactobacilli, which creates that acidic environment in the vaginal area. So if your estrogen levels are too high, then that also will create imbalance, or if too low as well. So it's really about finding that nice balance.
Okay. Now, I've heard this before in the industry, and I wonder what the truth is behind this. But does your partner's pH have anything to do with your own pH?
Yes. Yes. So this is something I also really enjoy talking about with this topic, because especially with bacterial vaginosis, men's sperm, male sperm, is like a 9. They are so alkaline, right? And we're supposed to be around a 3.5, super acidic. And just think about this. Our bodies are so incredible. So when we have unprotected sex, our bodies will send sperm, and our job is to get pregnant. So our acidic vaginas would kill that sperm. So we become more alkaline to kind of balance that out, to allow ourselves to get pregnant. What happens a lot of the time afterwards, we don't get back down to that acidic level. So that can throw you off. So sometimes you'll find different partners can be more alkaline. So I think we've all, not all, but some maybe have had partners where you just keep getting bacterial vaginosis every time. And that's really because maybe their sperm is super alkaline. So one of the things you can do, which is great with this product, I have a lot of women who use it after sex. You have to wait 24 hours after using it, of course. So use it after sex. And then what that is going to balance that out and give you that nice acidic vagina again, bring it right back down. You can also use it after your period too, because blood is alkaline. Sometimes you'll find after that, your things seem a little not so as they should be. That's when I tend to use mine. And some even use it every Sunday, just kind of at a regular. And if you're somebody who is experiencing, or even if you're going through menopause, or if your hormonal levels are kind of all over the place, you can use it once a week to help kind of keep everything nice and acidic down there. We can't recommend anybody who's pregnant to use it, unfortunately. And that's just part of the Health Canada guidelines, but anybody else would be perfectly fine.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about like what this boric acid does in terms of like once you insert it, which it is an insertion pill, correct?
It's a suppository. So that's why we called it up and away, because you put it up and it goes away. So boric acid is made from borax. That's where a lot of people are like, what? Borax and minerals combined together. It is Health Canada approved. They sell it everywhere. They sell it in the States. They sell it in Canada. And Health Canada, I will also say this too, because I think some people tend to be like, boric acid. Boric acid is actually used in eye drops as well. So you need to understand it's fully safe to actually put, you're not supposed to ingest it, which is interesting, but membrane wise, putting it in your vaginal area and also using it on your eyes, you're fully safe for that component. So basically it's a 600 milligram. We chose a veggie capsule. Some of them on the market use a gelatin capsule. I chose veggies. Then we kind of really appeal to everybody on the market. And you just insert it. We have two different types. We have a kit that's a 14-day supply that comes with an applicator. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to use their fingers, you put it in the top. I can just kind of show you here if you want. So it comes in this little box and we've got the applicator in here, right? So you can just keep the applicator. You can use it, we say up to 14 days max, but you can use it as need be too. Like if you find all of a sudden all your symptoms are gone after day 4, then you don't need to keep taking it. Just put it in your drawer and keep it for when you need it next, right? Then we also have just the 30-day standalone. So with that one, you would just use your finger to do it. And it just depends if somebody's used boric acid for quite some time, they're perfectly fine with just grabbing the 30 cap as well. So it's really, really super simple to use. You put it at nighttime before you go to bed. Now, that being said, I've used mine during the day. You really have to kind of, if you have a yeast infection or bacterial vaginosis, you don't have to wait till nighttime to treat something. So, but there can be a bit of discharge, powdery white discharge. So if you like, you can wear a light panty liner. So insert it, it will dissolve over time. And then in that, what that's going to do is that acidity that's in that boric acid is going to repopulate your vaginal area with more acidity. So then it's going to start balancing out that acidic vagina that you want to have, that you want to get back down to.
Okay. And then also in turn with that, the natural microbes in your vagina will also flourish better in that environment as well.
And that's part of so there's some great vaginal probiotics on the market. So you can pair it with that if you'd like, right? So you could have this. The issue with, not the issue, but one of the things I find with just taking the probiotic is your vaginal area still is not acidic enough. So then you can insert these great probiotics that are on the market, but then it's not going to really, I guess you could say, stick. It's not going to work as well because you're still not acidic enough. Right. So it's almost like if you could do the 2-step process, if you wanted to have the boric acid, once you're done your boric acid, then you could use your probiotic as well, just to repopulate.
Okay.
But it should be pretty good. I've never had anybody who had to use the probiotic. From what we've had, and we've had thousands of reviews on this one, the boric acid tends to work really, really well. And you can support yourself too with you can take, actual, you can not insert, eat.
Oral.
You can take oral. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not vaginal. You can take oral probiotics, but other nutritional things you can also do is during this time is really start supporting yourself with really great fermented foods, right? So you could have yogurt with live bacteria cultures. You could have kimchi, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles, really looking at having some of these really great fermented foods as well. And another interesting fact that I found the other day too was low levels of vitamin D are found in those suffered with candida and yeast and bacterial overgrowth. So having a really good vitamin D, living in BC during the winter, I take high doses of vitamin D, high doses, right? And so having a good vitamin D is also something else that you could do too.
We're going to take a quick pause in today's episode so I can share some incredibly exciting news with you. On behalf of Joanne's Place, I'm excited to share the launch of the Wellness on Purpose program to educate you. This is an online self-directed educational program that is focusing on key pillars of your health and wellness. These pillars include your nutrition, your stress, your sleep, and your movement. As I mentioned, this is a self-directed educational online program, and guess what? It is completely complimentary, aka it is free. We've decided to offer this program for free because we think it's really important for everybody to have access to this information and to start making changes today. So to kick off the start of our online program, we have released the first pillar focusing on your nutrition. So if you want to learn more about how to eat a balanced and sustainable way without overcomplicating and following strict dietary guidelines, this program is suited for you. So to learn more about it and to enroll now, go find the registration link in the description below and get started today. Now, aside from fermented foods, is there any other specific foods that you recommend people consume or even maybe avoid if they are trying to treat a yeast infection or BV?
Yeah. So high sugar, right? Yeast loves sugar. So really looking at your processed foods that you're eating. If you're somebody who has a sweet tooth, you can have your fruits, obviously, but really looking at that package, the cane sugars, the processed refined foods, really looking at those and pulling those back. And I will say, as I mentioned, with all Aeryon Wellness products, we have this QR code. We have a Candida menu planner in here. So we have a vegan and non, right? So you can look at looking at Candida menu planners you can get on, or a Candida diet if you're really looking at reducing that yeast in your day-to-day life, reducing the sugar and the foods that are going to cause more yeast infections. But we do have those in here too. So you can just scan the QR code and take the meal plans, and that supports you too.
Amazing. That's like that whole holistic approach of supplementing nutrition. That's awesome. Now, kind of piggybacking off that entire lifestyle support, is there any specific lifestyle factors that you think can contribute to more yeast infections that we should maybe be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, tight fitting pantyhose. I don't know how many people are wearing pantyhose nowadays, but maybe they'll make a comeback. Douching as well. Douching can really upset your vaginal flora, right? And I think there's a lot of stuff on social media about making your vaginal area smell like flowers, or making it smell like, and it's like, it's not supposed to smell like flowers. Like, it's okay to have you want it to smell the way it's supposed to actually smell. So that's something as well we're looking at, because that can really affect your vaginal flora. So any scented feminine products, to be honest with you, looking at bubble bath. If you're somebody who goes into lots of hot tubs, really hot tubs, maybe avoid those. And unnecessary antibiotic use, right? Really looking at, are you just taking antibiotics all the time? What are you taking? Why are you taking them? Is it something that's really necessary? Yes, there are obvious times that you need to be taking antibiotics, and you should be. But then if it's something that's reoccurring all the time, you really need to start looking at the root of it instead of just taking something, right? So really start looking at what's going on. And then staying in wet clothes. So as summer approaches, swimsuits, workout attire, really staying in those for long periods of time. So if you are somebody who works out and really gets a great sweat on, making sure you get home and change those clothes.
Yeah, good. Especially with, the warmer weather coming for sure. Yeah. Now, just circling back to the antibiotic conversation, because I think most women just assume that's the only option. And it's because you will go to your NP, or you'll go to the, Emerge, or your doctor, and they'll just continuously prescribe that antibiotic. So long-term, why is this not the best method of action for treating and preventing the reoccurrence of yeast infections?
Creates an imbalance in your natural vaginal flora. That's what it really does, right? And when you have that imbalance, what that's going to do, it's just going to kind of keep coming back over and over and again, because you're not really supporting your vaginal area by giving it what it really needs, which is to make it really acidic. And then if you wanted to, you could add the probiotics as well. So I would say anybody who has been taking antibiotics over and over again, to give boric acid a try, and then also take some really great probiotics and try that, because antibiotics not only imbalance your vaginal flora, but also affects other different areas of your body as well. And boric acid is really it's in that one spot. So you're really good. It's not going to be going anywhere else, right? So if I look at my daughter and I don't think I think she's been on antibiotics once in her life. So whenever she has a cold, or anything coming up. And as I said, I mean, obviously the medical, that is there for a reason. And so if you really need them, by all means, but if there is a way to look at the root of the problem and start addressing it, right? So whatever the issue is there something else you can be doing lifestyle wise, for whatever reason you're taking antibiotics, be it for bacterial vaginosis or whatever you have kind of going on.
Yeah, exactly. Because antibiotics really, as they are the bandage approach to whatever you're trying to treat. They're really just trying to kill off whatever that infection might be. But the long-term effects of chronic antibiotic use is something that I think is contributing to a lot of other health concerns that we're seeing, digestion related ulcers, Crohn's. I also do think, I've only done a little bit of research on this, but overuse of antibiotics and infertility and what that has as an impact on the women's health as well, and men too. But it's not the answer to continuously take an antibiotic over and over again, because sometimes you can be on a cycle of them for 10 days every 3 weeks, and you're really not building back that microflora and balancing the problematic areas like the pH of the vagina. So with the boric acid, you quickly mentioned you can take it as needed when those symptoms start, and then say they subside in 4 days and stop. But can you just tell us what the recommended dosage is in terms of, is it 1, 2 pills?
Yeah, sure. So it's one every night. So you can nighttime, right? Before you go to bed, you can use a panty liner and sleep through it through the night. Or as I said, if you're somebody who's experiencing it right away, you can go home in the afternoon and use it. You don't have to use it at nighttime, but it is one every 24 hours. So once a day is when you'd use it. I know I had a girlfriend, she had her partner coming back and she had BV and she was like, can I use 2 a day? I'm like, I'd probably just stick to 1 a day. I think it should be good with 1 a day, right? So one every 24 hours is what you really want to kind of do and give your body that chance to, and it will absorb it and it will create more acidity. And I know when I get my period, right after my period, there's always, I experience a little bit of, like, I can just smell, the smell is off. And so that's when I use one after my period, because blood is alkaline. So it'll create more an alkaline environment in my vaginal area. So it's just something that is so great because it's at our fingertips. We can use as need be. There's nothing to be worried about. But if you are somebody who, we haven't had anybody yet, and I've been selling the product for a year, it's one of our number ones. If you ever had an issue with it, if you ever found that it did cause you discomfort for using, then of course, immediately stop it, right? So you really have to honor your body and listening to your body as well.
For sure. And I think too, you could probably speak more clearly on this, but if you are somebody that does tend to get a yeast infection, say after unprotected sex, you could also use this as preventative, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a lot of women after they have sex, they use it right after, right?
Okay.
So what that's going to do, it's going to make everything nice and acidic down there. And then just give yourself 24 hours. And then I had somebody try to use it within hours afterwards and they messaged me and I'm like, no, hours afterwards. So I was like, okay, we had to put that on the bottle, make sure that's on the bottle somewhere.
Yes.
So that was a little lesson to my first, when we first launched the product. I was like, oh, I didn't even think people would do that. So, but
Amazing.
give yourself a little bit of time afterwards.
Okay, perfect. Now we do have the up and away as well as the pH strips available at our Joanne's Place location. So for our listeners, you can pop in and talk to any of our staff about those products. In the show notes, I will also leave a link to the Aeryon Wellness website. So you can go in and check in all those little bonus offers as well that come with the brand, and learn a little bit more about some lifestyle factors to help prevent reoccurring yeast infections. So Aeryon, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today and sharing your wealth of information. And I really hope this is a year for women to start prioritizing their vaginal health.
I think it is. It's funny, I did a big trade show and I had an audience of 150 people, men and women, scream vagina. So we can do that. I think this is the year of vagina. I agree with you.
Yeah, I hope so. If you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you want to learn more about the topics that we covered in today's episode, as well as the products, you've got 2 options. You can head over to our Joanne's Place website to review the show notes. We'll leave that in the description below. Or you can pop into one of our Joanne's Place locations and talk to one of our amazing staff. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, go over to your preferred platform, follow our page, and then find us over on social media so you're notified as soon as a new episode is released. That's all for now, and we'll see you in the next episode.